How's it going, rebels and blockaders alike? Welcome to Com Chatter with your host, Kaden Stetler, founder of Rebel Cause, and
Hey guys, what is going on? Robin Vogt of Brick City Blockade. You know the spiel. I ain't gonna say it anymore because we got a lot of different kind of Star Warsy type topics to get into tonight, huh, Caden?
oh, absolutely, man. Looking forward to sitting down, talking to Star Wars like we always do. And so, first off, how are you, man? Any cool Star Wars things this week you might have done, may have experienced? Of course, we always have Star Wars things happening pretty much every day. If we don't, it's a weird day. But yeah, so throw it to you first, bud.
Yeah, no, you know what? Listen, we're coming off of the Thanksgiving break. I hope everybody had a fantastic Thanksgiving, got to spend time with family, got to have a lot of fun. And listen, one of the best things about this time of year is that, obviously Black Friday comes up right around the corner, and you're like, all right, what Star Wars things are on the clearance racks? What things are being offered to us? And listen, Mr. Caden Stetler picked up some great stuff. By the way, I did not. However, I'm saving my Christmas list for a little bit later. But no, you know what? The best thing has been is just kind of kicking back with this time off. Caden knows, and just being able to kind of build up some stuff. Today I released the brand new Com Chatter logo.
Yes, the new and improved. It
Yeah,
looks fantastic.
yeah, a lot of people have been complimenting. They're like, "That's got the Brick City Blockade feel more than the other one." And I want to thank everybody for the support, continuing to support Com Chatter and everything. And it's a much cleaner look, and I think it fits the personality of the show. So that's just what I'm going with right now, man. How about yourself? You've had a pretty busy couple days, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh yeah, man. Well, first I'll start with Friday.
Yeah,
So, and originally I took the whole weekend off. I was supposed to have a special guest here this weekend, but
hmm,
things fell through.
of
Uh,
course.
Mr. Vogt, Mr. Robin Vogt was supposed to be down here, but some car trouble. Things happen.
Yeah,
Um, so Friday,
yeah.
um, after the Ravello magazine party, which we got a very large amount of money to be able to do some good here in Lancaster for Rebel Cause, and we helped put together 150 care packages
Whew,
that
man,
went out to the homeless.
amazing.
And we bought about 10 sleeping bags to give out. So it made for about 32 sleeping bags, 33. I think we had all said and done. I did this with my cousin. He actually has a little homeless outreach thing he does here. Not little, it's awesome. But
Right,
this is like their major thing every year is these bags.
right.
It's every Black Friday. Um, so we basically supplied half of the stuff
Hmm.
and we put these together. And let me tell you, man, this is always work. It's fun work and I love doing it.
Sure.
But it's days like that that just make it so worth it. And it's such an emotional roller coaster because you get excited. Like, this is the point of what we're doing. It's the love of Star Wars mixed with helping people. And it's these morals that we've learned and talked about. And it's putting them into action. And it's fantastic.
Right.
Um, so Mac and I went down to this church and they served a meal to the homeless people that were there.
Oh, great.
And then they came out for these bags, and it was just an awesome experience of a lot of smiles, a lot of hugs,
Yeah.
um, a couple stories. It's always hard to hear, but the people being so thankful, like you have no idea how much this does. I didn't have anything today. I didn't have a blanket to sleep with, and it was
Mhm.
bitter cold here in Lancaster. Um, but the weird thing was not the normal amount of people came. It was
Gotcha.
a little less. Probably had a lot to do with how cold it was. So,
Sure.
um, my favorite part of the night was we loaded about 30 bags into Mac's car.
Uh-huh.
Shout out to Mac for just being awesome.
Deck
Member
2
of
is
Rebel
awesome.
Cause. Mac's awesome. Love you, Mac. But we then drove around Lancaster to find more people. And
Mhm.
there's a couple key places where they're usually known to hang out. And we had the opportunity to give out the rest of the bags.
Oh, how great.
So all the bags were given out that night, which is fantastic. And but I'll tell you what, man, it was hard for me to stop. You know,
Can imagine.
yeah. There's a big part of me just wanted to, we had to leave, and I just wanted to stay in town because
Sure.
there was a lot of stuff, but it just is never enough. Mac ended up pulling old jackets and sweatshirts and stuff out of his car to give to people.
Wow.
We're just making everything happen that we can, and it breaks my heart sometimes to see how much of a need there really is.
Of course.
And you can tell, and there will always be this, that there's some people that I don't know if it's just an emotional barrier they put up, but it's very like a thank you, head down, kind of walk away. But we're always very. I walk up to people, and the experience that I had when we handed out the last 30 when we drove around, I kind of saw some of the yellow bags already, and so I walked up. I'm like, hey guys, I don't know if you remember me. I was just giving out the bags over at the church, and they're like, oh yeah, like very welcoming too, which was incredible. Because I could only imagine being on the street and being very defensive, probably, and scared. I'm sure it's nerve wracking at a lot of points, and just all very welcoming. And there were a lot of hugs going on, and a lot of thank yous, and we gave all the stuff we could, and then I just remember it drives me nuts, but there's this one woman who was like, do you guys have any more of the sleeping bags? And I was like, oh, unfortunately we don't right now. We're going to get more. I'm working on it right now. We're going to get some more. And but fortunately we were able to give her like 2 sweatshirts. And there was another thinner blanket that she had, and one of the people there that did get one were like, she can use mine tonight. I have another one, if she can have mine. So that was great.
That's great.
But I didn't even tell you this yet, because I wanted to kind of wait till we sat down, and I actually had the opportunity then to stand there surrounded by the people we're trying to help and ask them, what do you guys need the most?
That's a unique opportunity. Yeah.
It really, really was. And it was pretty cool. And they all said, they're like, honestly, the sleeping bags are the most helpful thing. So
interesting.
I dropped a line onto our awesome Facebook, because every time we put something onto the Rebel Cause Facebook and then gets shared out, then there's just a response that is just amazing.
Yeah.
People really get back to you quick. And like when the fire happened a few months ago, that we helped the family with the fire. I mean, I posted it at midnight, and by the time I woke up at like 8 o'clock the next morning, I had like over 100 comments on the thing.
That's absolutely amazing.
Of people wanting to help. There were Star Wars fans from here to, and it's not just Star Wars fans, but it mostly is, which is just the amazing part. We had 501st Garrisons hitting us up from here to, I think I still have the business card here from, it was a garrison in North Carolina that sent stuff up. Like, that's incredible. So that was pretty awesome. And it just makes it all worth it, man. But I'll tell you what, man, it was pretty emotional afterwards.
Yeah.
It was hard.
I can imagine.
It was hard to come home after that,
Yeah.
Miss Tori, my fiance, had just gotten off work. And I just kind of came in and it's kind of one of those, I had to just kind of be in her arms for a little bit. I kind of rested my head on her, and I got a little teary, man. Because it's just, it's so worth it. But oh God, I just wanted to, I told her, I was like, I want to go back out. Like, I don't know she's like, what are you going to do at 9 o'clock at night right now? What are you really going to be able to do? I'm like, I don't know, but I think there's something I can do. And it's just like, regroup. We'll figure it out, and there's plans in the works. But yeah, so that was Friday. Friday was pretty amazing, and
wow,
that was great. But then Saturday, that was that was Black Friday.
Black Friday, yeah.
Thursday night, we actually ran out because I was looking for that Hero BB-8 from Target. And let me tell you what, I didn't get it that night, but I got it last night.
Right.
Oh, so awesome.
Yeah.
It's like a droid. It's like a real droid in my house. Like,
it does everything.
It's BB-8. I mean, if you haven't seen it yet, there's some pictures and video on the Rebel Cause page and on Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah, check that out.
Check it out. It's so cool, man. It's just one of those things that I'm like, I have a robot in my home. It's just pretty awesome. We've been pretty lucky. We've got a lot of we've teased it a little bit before, but there is a big announcement coming from Rebel Cause in Brick City here pretty soon about a really big thing that we're going to be doing. And at this thing. I don't know if this is overstepping the line. I don't know. Anyway, no, it's ours, so I can say whatever. Maybe we can say whatever we want.
That's true.
There's going to be lots of space for activities, and we got a lot of fun activities for people to do. You know, I got the drones. We got the BB-8 for people to play around with. I got the Jedi Challenges game, the VR thing. Oof, let me tell you about it, man. The Jedi Challenges VR is just sensational.
Yeah.
Like, I took it to Thanksgiving, and we had gone to my grandparents' house on my father's side, Tori's mother's, and then we went to my mom's.
Oh, nice.
I had everybody in each house playing that. My 90-year-old grandmother was playing it.
Oh man, how sweet is that?
Oh, it was pretty funny, man. And she was so bad at it, but and I'll tell you what, to see my dad's face light up like that, he's just like, this is awesome. What, like, you know, it was just so cool. But so yeah, that was my Star Warsy weekend. Shout out to Jake Stetler, my father, my co-host on Rebel Chatter, which will be coming back very soon, guys. He has finished the movie now, but he goes into surgery tomorrow. So thoughts, prayers, all that good stuff with him leading into tomorrow, getting that knee replacement because he was a paratrooper in the military. But then we're planning on, you know, I talked to him just tonight and we're getting back to it. You know, when he is a little bit stabilized from the surgery, he's going to get that microphone back up and running, and we're going to keep yapping about Star Wars like we always do.
So. I love it. I love the idea of Rebel Chatter coming back from the good friends down there in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and bring it back onto the BrickCityBlockade.com podcast network. Hearing Jake's voice again on podcast, man. I love what your dad says half the time on podcast. He always has a very interesting perspective when it comes to things. Now, Kaden, I do have to ask you this. I know you said that you share out everything on Facebook, but for the people who are listening right now, the blockaders out there who want to get involved, want to see you cry more tears, and want to help out the homeless by maybe getting some more sleeping bags out there, what can they do? What can they do to help you and Rebel Cause make things happen?
Well, there's a couple different ways, guys. You know, there's always shipping goods to us.
Right.
We do have a Rebel Cause PayPal if you prefer a monetary donation. You know, 100% of whatever is given to us goes back into Rebel Cause, whether that's you know, small percentages just to make a next event happen, but a majority of it's going to like completely do the homeless, and it's going directly. I mean, you can see it, you know, on our Facebook, Rebel Cause Lancaster on Facebook and Instagram. You can see pictures of it, you know, from my hands to the hands of the homeless here.
Yeah.
And it's pretty great. You know, I've been incredibly blessed to be able to just be, yeah, I don't even know. I'm lost for words with it, really. Just to be, I want to say a part of it, but you know, to have started this and to watch it blossom into what it is now is pretty incredible. You know, I sit back sometimes and just sit in my little office here and just look at the walls around me with the stuff posted up from events we've done and things we've been able to do. And it's cool, man.
That's awesome. So they can go over to the Facebook page. You guys
drop us a message, guys. You know, we'll work with you if you want to get involved.
Nice.
If you're local or within a couple states, come out. And here we go. Here's the plug. If you want to get involved this holiday season, what better way than to join us at Xmas at Brewskins?
Hey.
Exactly. So you come out to Xmas at Brewskins, Star Wars themed holiday event. It's going to be very cringy because we're watching the holiday special. We have the Star Wars themed menu. We have Starbecue podcast out with this Brick City Blockade. We're going to be giving away a ton of prizes, raffles, games. Santa Vader is going to be there. It's going to be awesome. Won't talk about it too much more because it's just going to be cool. Right. And we might have a Jawa elf, you know, so we'll toss that idea around. So it'll be fun. You probably can't sit on his lap because the armor will crash because it's not really Darth Vader and it's plastic. But yeah, it's gonna be awesome, man. And that's December 22nd at Rumpel Brewskins in Lancaster from 3 to 7. We got 4 hours this time instead of just 3.
That's fantastic.
And all the proceeds going to Rebel Cause Lancaster, which means it's going to the homeless right here in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. So very excited for that. If you can make the trip, and I don't ever want to hear excuses about, oh, I live too far. Steve Kirk came from California. The last one is
that's right.
And he's coming to the next one. So you can make it happen.
Yeah, that's true. There's no excuses in that point. We're making the 7-hour ride down south to Lancaster to see our good friend.
Yeah, and you guys too. Exactly. That's a that's a long drive.
It is, and our good friend Starbq Podcast, and of course Rebel Cause Lancaster will be there doing the coverage, being part of the event. It's going to be so much fun, and I cannot wait for December 22nd. Now, Kaden, we're here to talk some Star Wars, and I think it's most
Absolutely.
if we just jump right into this. And it's funny because this is going to be, and I've been talking to Scottish all day about it. I've talked to some select people, maybe some people even in the Star Wars world, when it comes to this theory that I have. And it's interesting because I've seen this across different platforms today, and that's the whole concept of, well, the Obi-Wan film may not be out of the woods just yet, and that maybe there's a familiar face that might be taking hold on it. And it's not that I believe in this rumor whatsoever. I don't believe in it in any sort of way possible. But I think the interesting point in all of this is that I do not see a possibility of us not seeing Uncle George back behind the camera again. And I pose this theory to Scott Inch, and Kaden, I'm going to throw it over to you in a second, but I'm going to say this simply. Something has been happening behind the scenes at Lucasfilm. I don't know what it is, if this was part of the deal. I've talked with you about it, the deal that George Lucas signed for the $1.4 billion to sell the brand of Star Wars and the property of Star Wars over to Disney. Was there something in that contract that said, all right, if stuff starts feeling like it might be going downhill, and it's not me saying that, it's from the general perspective. I love The Last Jedi, I love Solo. But when it comes to them trying to push these stories forward, and with Benioff and Weiss and Rian Johnson, and with the return of so many different aspects of the Star Wars universe coming back, this is such a great time. And whether it was built into the contract or not, to allow George to get behind the camera again, not as necessarily a story writer, but as an executive producer, and to really just kind of grab a hold on this. Now, I'm making my bold prediction that Star Wars Celebration, we may see George walk out and say, hey, guess what? I'm back. That's my bold prediction on that, but I'm curious to hear what you have to say, Kate.
It's interesting. I've seen the same little rumor running around, and it stemmed from someone in Ireland talking about, hey, we're gonna have Star Wars back here. The Obi-Wan movie is gonna be here. I don't think it's true at all.
Right, that's where I am too.
Why would the Obi-Wan movie be set in Ireland?
Right.
It would most likely be mostly in the desert or in a studio. Seeing as he's on Tatooine, because I don't really want to see Obi-Wan leave Tatooine, because it would kind of go against his character.
It would.
So that being said, I think those rumors are false. I think they're talking about episode 9.
Right.
To be honest with you, I think it just may have been misquoted, or the man may have misspoke. Because we all know about Ireland, Octu's there, the island of Skellig Michael.
Of course.
And there's been a ton of rumors that they went back for episode 9 to shoot some stuff. Yeah, I just don't think it's true, unfortunately. It would be cool. Would I like to see George Lucas come back and do a film in general? Yes, I think it'd be interesting to just let him play again. You know what I mean? Because he took on a lot of... I'm sure Star Wars was always fun for him, but to take on so much to create a galaxy rather than just to create a story within it, I think it'd be cool. At the same time, I think George might have just been done with Star Wars for now. He may have been done with it for good. I mean, he sold it. So I feel like maybe if he had any interest in coming back, maybe he wouldn't have done that. You know what I mean? Maybe I'm not sure. I'm saying it would be interesting to see him do it. I would like to see that, but I just don't know. I don't know if it's what he wants really. But at the same time, you see him visiting all these sets, and that's kind of where it's where I kind of peek in, and I'm like, maybe he's like, maybe I should, not that I shouldn't have sold Star Wars because they're doing a great job and all that, but I miss it, Because at any point you may be working on something that's stressful, and you're like, "Oh, I'm going to wash my hands of this, give it to somebody else." You're going to look back with rose-colored glasses, looking at it like, "Oh man, I missed that. I remember when Han shot first, and I changed it." And then no, but no, but yeah.
Interesting.
George Lucas's cut of Solo: A Star Wars Story would be Beckett would shoot past Han Solo before Han Solo shot him in the chest.
Right.
But no.
That just makes sense, though.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
I'll never. I always love the picture that George wore during Episode 1 where it said Han shot first. It's like, what?
Come on, buddy.
Anyway, not to get too off topic there, but anyway, but he's like the master of trolls. But
He really is.
Yeah, so that's my answer, man. No, I don't think it's happening, but it'd be interesting to see it happen.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it'd be interesting to see it happen, but there's something that's lingering. And I guess you could say it in the words of the great Lord Vader himself, I sense a disturbance in the Force. There's something that Lucasfilm is not telling us. There is something that I feel from a business perspective why they have been so quiet. And when you're talking about a major company, you're talking about especially a company like Disney. I mean, obviously they're pushing out other things. They're pushing out Mary Poppins. They're pushing out other products right now that truly fit the format of what a family would do at Christmas time, which is take the entire crew to go see a film. And that's where Bob Iger's mind is right now. Let's get those films out. And also, let's see what Marvel's going to do heading into next year as we're talking about the second part of Infinity War as well. And amongst all of this, which fascinates me because you have major events coming up. You have the Super Bowl coming up. You're going to have the NBA playoffs. You're going to have a lot of different marketing platforms to be able to start pushing out maybe some news, maybe some trailers when it comes to Star Wars. And I think what has got me in a point of, I don't want to say a limbo in terms of Star Wars news, but what's had me fascinated throughout this is that this is calculated quietness. And it's an interesting term that I actually learned not only from my dad, but is something that I've picked up over time, Kaden. And maybe some of the listeners out there have heard this if you're in the marketing world. And it's when the release of a film or a product comes out, and the company is quiet for quite some time, and they don't say anything, and you're like, okay, what's the plan? We've been saying it too, Kaden. What's the plan with Lucasfilm? What do they want to accomplish here? And this calculated quiet that they have been able to formulate has me wondering if come Star Wars Celebration, in the 5 days that they have to share information in Chicago, I don't expect a ton of information at Celebration Chicago, but what I do expect is that they are going to make 2 or 3 major announcements between Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And where I do think they could come out on Saturday and say, hey, you know what? George is coming back, not necessarily to do films, but maybe even be a member of the story team alongside Dave Filoni and Pablo Hidalgo. I mean, there you go. There's your Mount Rushmore of Star Wars writers right there. But there's something about the way that Lucasfilm has handled their marketing more recently, that they focused on Resistance and haven't pushed out anything else. This is what is fascinating to me. And
they're gonna drop a nuclear bomb on us soon.
Yeah,
it's just like something huge.
You're right. There is something lingering, and I don't know if our listeners out there, please reach out to us through Twitter or Facebook. Share your opinions with us on this. Do you think that Lucasfilm is preparing something? Are they preparing a single reactor shot at Scarif on us? Like, I don't know.
I don't know, man. I think it's going to be a little bit more than the single reactor. I think it's going to be
an Alderaan type shot.
Yeah, we're getting an Alderaan. We're going to take out the whole planet. I agree, buddy. I think we're getting something big.
Yeah, it's typical of Disney. I'll say that much. It really is, because there was some of that when it came to a lot of the Marvel films. Okay, Disney goes out, they buy the Marvel property. Well, where are the films? It was quiet. It was quiet for quite a bit of time before they started saying, okay, we're going to start doing this. We're going to start doing this. Okay, Kevin Feige's on board. You know what I mean? So there is this very calculated marketing approach that Kathleen Kennedy and the rest of the team are taking And I have to admit, you see it on the Star Wars show between Andy and Anthony Carboni. They're almost going in depth into stuff that's already been done, like
Yeah.
product Solo and Rogue One. They're almost going back in time to almost avoid talking about what's coming. And it's funny because I think you and I, knowing how we market our products and knowing how we market our brand and the way that we put out our podcast, it's very calculated and it's fascinating
Yeah.
to watch. It's absolutely fascinating to watch.
On such a scale.
Yes, on such a scale.
Yeah, it's. I'm just gonna type up a letter here to Lucasfilm. Dear Lucasfilm, Knights of the Old Republic, love Kaden. No, I would love to. I would love something like that. I think that is kind of what we're gonna get, announcement wise. Because let's honestly look at it. We've been wrapped up in this whirlwind of, oh my God, Star Wars is back, and it's kind of almost over now. Like
It really is.
Episode 9's a year away, and then what?
And then what?
Then there's a standalone movie, but we don't even know about that, which is weird. That's really weird. We don't know about that. And we don't know anything about episode 9 yet. And
that's weird. See, that thrown me off.
We had a trailer for episode 7 over a year before it came out.
Yeah.
You know? And it was just like, what? We're not getting anything close now. All right, give it a little bit. I'm telling you, it'll be Celebration.
Yep.
I think we'll probably learn the trailer before that. Or I mean, not the trailer, the title before that.
Sure, of course.
Which would be cool. But yeah, man. They're not giving us much.
We just need Vanity Fair pictures. We need some more behind the scenes stuff, because if we're at this point in filming like we expect we are, Kaden, where John Williams is not that far away from coming in and starting to score some stuff. I can guarantee you that. He is not that far away. And guess what? When you start talking about John Williams coming in to score, that's usually when you start seeing Entertainment Weekly and Vanity Fair saying, hey, guess what? In the next couple months, you're going to start seeing some stuff. And
man,
the previews. So I'm waiting for that time to come. Maybe we'll see it closer to Christmas time. Maybe we'll see a Vanity Fair article or something showing the characters and their costumes. But it's just between the marketing of Solo and the way that they're going with episode 9, it is a very different approach, and the marketing approach I am not used to necessarily. And I feel like if they really want to surprise us, they're doing a good job. They're doing a really good job of building up the hype in that case.
And I'll tell you what, man. I think episode 8 took us to the edge of our seats, pushed us off. We got back up, and now we're sitting here like, what? How are we supposed to rebuild a rebellion from this? You know what I mean? We're literally kind of sitting there like, I mean, I love the movie, but I'm just like, okay, so Luke's gone in a badass way, but
you're right.
He's gone. He's going to be a Force ghost now, obviously. Or is, I mean, we hear a ton of rumors about, could there be some sort of way that Luke comes back, which would be interesting. I don't know. We hear these things, Rey doesn't have a lightsaber. The Resistance is nothing. What are we getting? And I think it's brilliant, man. And I'm always the person that's going to say, you're going to look back in a couple years and realize all these people that hate on Last Jedi. And I'm like, you're going to realize how great that film actually is. Just as a piece of storytelling, imagine watching Empire back in the day. Okay. I just watched A New Hope and it was awesome and real upbeat and the good guys are winning. And now Luke Skywalker's dad's the devil and his hand's gone.
That's right.
What's happening now? And Han Solo's dead. Probably, for all everybody knew back then, that kind of seemed like a death in a way. They said he was alive, but he got taken away by a bounty hunter. Imagine that, dude. Like, we don't even know. We know what's up with all of our characters right now. And back then you would have had no idea. I remember my dad saying he came out of the theater, like, actually kind of pissed. He was like, what? Like, I hate this movie. And now it's his favorite one.
It really is. I mean, you look at the progression between A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back, and then you look at the progression between The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, and it's heir apparent in so many different ways. Just in terms of, and everybody will say the copycat format of, okay, so this has already been done before. It's a very similar format, but you
It's
know what the
called the
funny.
basis of storytelling.
Yes, it's called the basis of storytelling, and everybody uses it. It doesn't matter what kind of author or writer or producer you are. You use the same similar format for everything. And what's fascinating about this too is that, okay, so it follows that same format. If we look back and we look at the progression between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, we have that time jump. We have a development of Luke going from I've just severed my hand and I'm here with Leia on a medical frigate and I'm trying to figure out what my next move is to Luke choking out a Gamorrean guard essentially and saying, "Give me Han or you're gonna die." And
Yeah.
and
Free us or die, Java.
yeah, yeah, free us or die. And we look at what Lucasfilm is now doing with that timeline between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, and they're trying to fill in some gaps in terms of the comic books and the canon content, and then what happens after Return of the Jedi. Lucas,
And sorry, go ahead.
yeah, Lucas is setting up the balance between Episode 8 and Episode 9 in the exact same way for that purpose. I'm going back to the business sense. If Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi were successful in bringing Lucasfilm the later opportunity to start telling stories in between each part, that's exactly what Lucasfilm wants to do with Episode 9 and Episode 9. I mean, Episode 8 and Episode 9. They want to fill in the gap between 8 and 9 and then tell some stories after 9 until we get the next trilogy. That's essentially what they're trying to build up here.
Yeah, man. I can't be more excited. And, we're going to speculate this whole time. And, there's things I want, but, we're going to get this amazing story regardless, man. I love the job that Ryan did, but I think I love that JJ's back in the saddle.
Yeah.
Ryan really broke out and made this very unique story that none of us were expecting. And
Really did.
that was awesome for that middle movie, to really not, because obviously, and this is the thing we say all the time, but obviously Ryan Johnson didn't just write whatever the hell he wanted and make it. That's
absolutely not
what happened at all.
I hate it when people say that too.
And here's the crazy thing. George Lucas did the outline of the story. So everybody give it back to George. Why? It would be great, but you're going to get basically the same story, but probably a little more talk about midichlorians, and you'll just see your favorite characters as kids and they'll be sad.
Oh, great. So Muppet Babies, but in the Star Wars universe. I love it.
Oh, hey, you guys like Boba Fett? Well, in this, he's a little boy and he's sad. Hey, you guys like Darth Vader? Oh, yeah, I love Darth Vader. Oh, he's going to be a little boy in this. Oh, what is he going to be like? A crazy kid from The Omen, killing stuff with his mind? I'd be like, no, he'll miss his mom and he'll be sad. I stole that from Patton Oswalt, but that was a hilarious skit.
Yeah, very
it's very true, though. It's funny. But so here's a random little bit of Star Wars topic to go over in our head.
Yeah.
I always think it's interesting to look back at the books that came out before the prequels.
Yeah.
And look at what they tried to say the Clone Wars was. Because you get a lot of, it was clone Jedi against clone Jedi. And then that the clones were the bad guys, which, I mean, I guess kind of at the end it was. But, I mean, the clones were the good guys, for most of the war. I mean, arguably, unless you're one of those conspiracy theorists, that's just when you really look at it, the Separatists were kind of the good guys in that war.
They really were misguided. They were misguided.
They were led by a Sith Lord, but a lot of the people they ended up being rebels,
It's right.
A lot of Separatists ended up being rebels. But yeah, it's an interesting thing to look at. And the biggest one is I don't really remember it because I was only 7 or 8 at the time,
right,
when episode 2 came out, and you would have been 7 or 8 as well.
Around that time, yeah.
Boba Fett, when they were just oh yeah, he's a clone. We always kind of had the idea of, and I think it's cool because the old original thing with Boba Fett was he was a shock trooper from the Clone Wars
Uh-huh.
that became a bounty hunter. And then it was talk about maybe like were there clones? There was talk that Lando was a clone.
Right.
You know, he was one of the clones.
Yeah.
So it's just so interesting. I love exploring that time and like some of the old stuff, like um, the Kenner line that never happened
Mm-hmm.
of
Mm-hmm.
Star Wars figures.
Yeah.
So
Right.
interesting. There was going to be a clone maker would come back, a clone maker. I'm good at words tonight. A cloner would come back, and there was going to be more clones and fighting Luke. There was like a double-seater X-wing, which just happens to be red and black, like Poe's X-wing.
Oh.
And there's a lot of influence. You can see it. And then there was a sand speeder instead of a snow speeder.
Hmm.
And, you know, there's all these cool little things, and it's just really interesting. What are your thoughts on that, man? Like, did you have like an idea in your mind, if you can remember back to then, of what the Clone Wars was, or was it just kind of a throwaway line for you?
You know, I love that question. Like the Clone Wars to me really was like based on like almost like what you said. It was like I guess it was you almost kind of had to make some stuff up in your head at the time.
Yeah.
You almost had to almost head canon a lot of it. You did have some of the books, and you still had some of the unreleased stuff that you could see once in a while here and there. That wasn't until later, though, until I truly understood a lot of it. You know, I'm talking like 14, 15, 16 years old when you go back and you're like, whoa, hold on a second. I remember when the prequels came out. Oh, that's what the ideas were before they came out with Attack of the Clones and everything else. And it's so funny that you bring up the Boba Fett piece because I always thought growing up that, and this was even when I was introduced to Star Wars, I always thought that Boba Fett was probably an alien underneath his helmet. I never thought that he was a humanoid species, that he was a humanoid in any way or possible, that he was an actual clone. And I think that the way that George played that in Attack of the Clones, that Boba Fett was actually the spawning of Jango Fett here on why am I blanking on the name of the planet? My goodness gracious. On
Camino.
yes, I always forget. They have the long necks that are like giraffes.
They
Um,
look like Q-tips.
yeah, they really do. That's actually a really great comparison. I'm going to do some stuff with that. But yeah, I always had this idea that Boba Fett was not exactly what George played him out as in episode 2, Attack of the Clones. And maybe that's good. Maybe he threw it off, and I had to rethink in my head. Okay, I had this idea completely off, and this is what it's going to be now. But yeah, I think you pose a very interesting question for not just this conversation, but for everybody out there. People, not just even people our age, but people who came to Star Wars a little bit later too. Like, was the Clone Wars always what we originally thought it was before we
Mhm.
were introduced to it by George Lucas? Obviously, the animated series did even more for it. And I think that as we reflect on it, I think we kind of take a back seat and we say, okay, all right, I see why he did certain things. you know, I'm glad he did certain things when it comes to the Clone Wars too.
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. It's just one of those intriguing things to kind of think back about, you know,
Yeah.
especially in a time now where we're so focused on, you know, 7, 8, 9 and beyond. It's always fun to look back and be like, what was this supposed to be, you know,
Mhm.
and what we got. I mean, because I've been rewatching the Clone Wars recently, and it's just such a good series. It's such an interesting time because
Clone Wars arc is great.
we have so many, we have like different versions of Star Wars,
Hmm.
and it's interesting because we have the prequel trilogy,
Yeah,
which is the Jedi in their prime.
sure.
And that's fantastic to see, but it's so different now with, and I kind of think it's more interesting when there's a few Jedi because there's that mystery. You
It's
know what I mean? I've always thought that, you know, the mysterious like lone swordsman thing is just
yeah.
intriguing, but it's just different. And I dig it. I dig it all. I love it the most. I dig it all.
That's Caden's new T-shirt design. I dig it all. I like that.
Hmm.
I like that a lot. Yeah, I agree with you, man. I think the Clone Wars is such an interesting time, and I think for somebody who really hasn't explored it, I would even say I say this all the time to parents of the students that I have at school. It's like, hey, Mr. Vogt, we showed our kids the original trilogy, and then we brought them to the Force Awakens because we weren't sure if we really wanted to show them the prequels. And I'm like, well, if you're not going to show them the prequels, show them the Clone Wars animated series. Show them what Dave Filoni was able to build upon. Even if you're not going to show them the prequels right away, I encourage the prequels in every way possible. Show them Jar Jar Binks.
Dude, I love the prequels.
Yeah. I don't
I love the prequels, and here there's such a love for the prequels now, which is hilarious, and it's exactly what it's going to be with this new trilogy, and I think it just makes it. I think it makes more sense to diehard Star Wars fans that have known a little bit more longer, about what that whole galaxy looked like. We got introduced to a really bad time in the galaxy.
Yeah, that's a really
good point. We really did. Like, there was like 3 Jedi, and there used to be a lot more of them, and it's in the middle of a civil war where the embodiment of evil is ruling the galaxy. Right. And the prequels are different, but they're great. Like, I always loved the prequels, and people were but I even kind of fell into it for a little bit early on. Like, oh, maybe the prequels aren't that great. But when you're young, you're impressionable more and all that kind of thing. And you hear so many people saying it. Well, it must be true. But no, now it's even more, in our faces with, social media, stuff like that. Could you imagine if episode 1 came out when the Facebook was around?
Oh my goodness, I don't even want to think about it. I really don't, because
you can think about it because it's exactly what's happening with episode 8 and episode 7. And that's the thing everybody already forgot about already too. Everybody hated episode 7.
Yeah, that's true.
Remember? Except everybody, because everybody actually loved that movie.
Yeah.
The Russians. It was all the Russians.
I think that you make a good point there. I think in the age of social media, if you had the prequels at this time, I think it almost would have been double of what we're seeing from the sequel trilogy, even more, because I think that it would have been the introduction of Jar Jar Binks in this day and age, I think. And listen, a lot more respect for him at best. I was somebody who never really had an issue with Jar Jar Binks. I don't know about you, Kaden, but I never really had a real issue with him, because as a young kid at our age, it was like, oh, he's kind of goofy.
A goofy character in a morality tale that is not focused, but had a focus towards children. Yeah, that's fine to have a goofy character.
Yes.
I mean, I like Jar Jar when he came out at first too, man. It was just Jar Jar, and that's the thing that people just don't want to. Okay, we're gonna go on this whole thing. It's just funny to look back and be like, things we look at now and we're like, oh yeah, it's part of Star Wars. But you get everybody knew Boba Fett was BA, man. He's badass. And everybody knew that. That's how he was marketed. He was this awesome dude. Oh, here he is. And then you get Empire and you're like, oh, he was awesome. And then he gets like knocked in the backpack and slams into a wall and falls in a hole. That's how Boba Fett, quote, quote, died.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And that's just, oh, it's part of Star Wars. Okay. But like, I'm sure that made people mad back in the day. It's just so funny, man, to look at these things that we're now okay with, that people would probably complain about, like goofy little stuff like that. Like, I know the EU brought him back, and I'm sure eventually we'll see him back in the new expanded universe, but it's just so funny. I don't know. I love Star Wars, and just people just get all crazy, and it's just funny because it's like in a couple years you're gonna love it.
Captain Phasma.
Do you think she'll be back in 9?
It's funny.
I think she will, man. I have a weird feeling that she'll be back.
This is one of those questions that I've been posed on multiple occasions on social media about Kaden, and it's like, yeah, they could bring her back. They could find a way to do it. I think she's got somebody else that works for her that's going to end up showing up and is going to try to avenge Captain Phasma. I don't know why. I think Star Wars Resistance is kind of showing that. We see the Gold Trooper, obviously, playing out in that series. We see different forms of leaders within the First Order. I think that Hux and Phasma and Ren were not the only ones. You started seeing that a little bit with Kennedy on the whatchamacallit, the in the Last Jedi. The I can't believe I'm blanking on the name of the ship. Right at the beginning of the film. Um, oh, it's
I'm
a,
gonna let you think of it.
yeah, please do it. Uh, Edit this out, and this is live, and I love it that I can do that. But yeah,
Honestly, I looked down for a second because my phone went off. What ship were you saying, buddy?
from
Tell
the
me.
beginning of the Last Jedi.
The Radis?
No, 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 no,
The
no, no. The First
Supremacy?
Order. The First Order. No, not the Supremacy. No, no, the ship that Kennedy.
Oh, the Dreadnought.
The Dreadnought. No,
Yeah, yeah. Sorry. There's a name for it, I'm sure, obviously, but I don't know what that is. To be honest with
It's one of those ones. Well, the Dreadnought was also from Star Wars Legends, and they brought it back in a different form. Thank you, Ryan Johnson. And no, but listen, Kennedy and the Dreadnought at the beginning of The Last Jedi showed me that, okay, there are some other leaders in the First Order out here. And
you. Yeah.
I could totally see that Phasma had a whole group of people very similar to her that are essentially going to try to avenge her death in many ways, and they're going to be associated with the First Order more than Kylo Ren. That's going to be their thing. I think she could come back. I'm keeping a very small percentage of it in my mind, but I think there's something there. I agree.
See, my thing is, and this is, excuse me, this is what I thought from early on, was they made such a point to tell us in the Phasma novel that she fought for the side she thought was going to win.
Mhm.
And I had a feeling that she would be a rebel by the end of it.
Wow.
It would be an
really?
interest. Yeah. I'm not saying
Really?
now, but I just had the strongest feeling that, when they were making this point to tell us, like, her thing is she fights for the side that she thinks is going to win.
Uh-huh.
It's not even really it's kind of a selfish thing, but that's why I looked at her character and I was like, oh man, she's going to be a rebel by the end of all this. And that'd be so interesting to have Finn have the person that is kind of the focus of his anger come to his side. And that would be an interesting character development for him. He had to give up his life. He now embraced another one. And then him having to confront his old life and reconcile with it to fight alongside it would be an interesting, character arc for him.
You're almost saying like an Agent Callus arc in many ways.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, Callus. It would be like a Callus thing. You would see that you're fighting for the wrong side. And yeah, I don't know. Is the First Order the wrong side? Yeah, they're not good. That's something you look at, and that's something that I've thought about recently. That could Kylo be inching into this position to actually make the First Order be a good thing?
Could he, or this conversation is going in a very interesting direction.
It boils down to, is Kylo Ren just completely a jerk, or is he a good person at heart? But he's obviously a good person at heart, and is he going to turn against this First Order? Or my interesting thing would be because here's what I think about, because of the way Star Wars rhymes. Okay.
Yeah. While you cough.
I got a lot to say. I'll clear my throat. No. It started that the guys in the white armor were the good guys.
Sure.
And then they turned into the bad guys.
Right.
Would it be interesting if they turned back into the good guys?
It's not out of the picture.
I don't know. It's just something I think about. It would be an interesting development for stormtroopers. You know what I mean? To go from clone troopers as good guys, stormtroopers as bad guys, and then these new stormtroopers to turn into an army fighting for good. Because if Kylo's a supreme leader, he can really make the call. If he does turn and come back to the light side, instead of being like, oh, I'm going to take down the First Order now, would he not just be like, oh, hey guys, we're done here? Everybody stop, like, shooting innocent civilians. Just kind of, maybe we'll help the galaxy a little bit. We're not going to blow up any more planets.
You post something really interesting, Kaden, and it's just kind of running through my head right now. Is that you have the Resistance, you have the First Order, and you have Kylo Ren. At this point, that you have three main sectors of stories to tell heading into Episode 9. And then you had Supreme Leader Snoke, which Kylo Ren took out alongside Rey, and they finished that off. My thought in all of this, and I told you this, and I believe it was on the second to last episode that I did with Scott Inch on Talking Far, Far Away, was the whole idea that it would be split off and that you would have the Ren Empire, the First Order, and the Resistance, and all three of them would be fighting. And in support of that theory, basically what you have said is like, okay, so what if the First Order really isn't that bad? What if Ren was able to turn them? Well, I think there's a larger foundation that could play out from that. And is there any way here that we have not truly captured an essence of who the true puppet master is in the universe? Because all three of these pieces could be being manipulated all at once, and the First Order, Kylo Ren, and the Resistance are all good when you look in the grand spectrum of who's controlling it all.
That's really what it boils down to, man. And it would be an interesting change.
Got to be something. Because the canon is playing that line. You hear it with Thrawn. I don't believe it's Snoke that he's sensing, because the Chiss sense so much more than that. They sense energies that the dark side can sense, and I don't think Snoke is big enough to be that sense.
I don't know, man. There's nothing but speculation, dude, and that's what I was saying about Episode 8. It really threw all these curveballs at us, so that we kind of knew where Episode 8 was going. You know what I mean? At least
you did.
The start of it. Okay, Rey's gonna get trained by Luke. Rey's gonna get trained by Luke. Really, the only thing we know about Episode 9 is this will be the final battle between the Resistance and the First Order, or will it? Or will it?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
They say this will be the end of the Skywalker saga, but come on. So is Episode 6.
Force Ghosts don't die, folks.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm curious, man. I'm very curious.
I feel like people who are out there listening to this, Kaden, whether it's on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, get involved in the conversation, guys. Use the hashtag ComChatterPodcast or hashtag BCBPN, hashtag RebelCause Lancaster. It doesn't matter. Just go out. Join the conversation, guys. Join in the fun.
I'm very curious to see what everybody has to think.
Yeah.
Has to say.
I agree. I think there's so much more out there that people, maybe theories that maybe somebody hasn't spoken of out there. Maybe they have something better. Half the time the people out there have better things to talk about than we do. So,
and we know as soon as we get off this episode, man, we're gonna have to we'll hear James Brown's opinion, because hey buddy, I know he's listening. James Brown, the voice of the Brick City Blockade Podcast Network.
Yes. Oh, James. I always love it. It's not a valid theory until James has his insight on it. That's how
I know. Until you hear it in a deep voice that could be narrated, it just doesn't count.
It's true. Well, listen, Kaden, I think we should put a wrap on our speculation on Episode 5 here.
Episode 5?
Yeah, Com Chatter Episode 5.
Oh, I thought you meant Episode 5. Yes, Com Chatter Episode 5, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh man, you gotta love this guy. Sitting across, he's like, "Wait a second, are we talking about Star Wars? What's going on over here?"
Where was it?
Oh man, he's like Mortis, and then came out alive. No, but
I know.
Listen, guys, thank you so much. And Kaden, it is that time of the show on anything that we do here at the podcast network. I think you know what it's called.
I do. It's called Plug Time.
Oh, yeah, you're right. It is. It's called Plug Time here on Chatter. Mr. Kaden Stetler, where can the good people find you across social media?
Well, you can find Rebel Cause at Rebel Cause Lancaster, and under Yeah. Let me restart that. We are live. Haha, ladies and gentlemen, we mess up. Anyway, so you can find Rebel Cause at Rebel Cause Lancaster on Facebook and Instagram under that same name. You can find our podcast, Com Chatter, which will be back very soon, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a little bit. Dad is going to be on the mend after tomorrow, so we will get back to it at rebelchatter.com and on iTunes and all those other great podcasting apps all across the galaxy. You can, of course, find us on the many shows that I'm on the
BrickCityBlockade.com podcast network, which you can also find at www.brickcityblockade.com. You guys can follow me over on Twitter at Mr. Vogt Tweets. Please make sure to check out all my tomfoolery and all my silly selfies over on Instagram at the official Vote. Again, Brick City Blockade on the website, iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and iHeartRadio, TeePublic to support the podcast, Patreon, and Starlight Children's Foundation, bringing more smiles to kids' faces through our A Galaxy of Hope program, which we are super excited about with the holiday season coming around. Mr. Stetler, always an interesting conversation on Com Chatter, turning those
absolutely
on again. I love it. I love it.
And if you want to see this live in person, in the flesh, you can see us, mess up, drink beers, take breaks, do all that great stuff. You can see us live at X and a lot of other great stuff. That was a joke. Of course, everybody. You can find us at Xmas Brewskins, Rebel Cause Brick City, doing it live, man. It is going to be fantastic. Looking so forward to it. We are going to get down to what we love and what we do best. And all those proceeds are going to the Water Street Mission and the homeless right here in Lancaster. So looking forward to it, guys. And we'll see you there on December 22nd from 3 to 7.
And as we always say here at the Podcast Network and here on Com Chatter, for Mr. Kaden Stetler, this is Robin Vogt signing off until next time. May the Force be with you.
Always.
that was good.
That was fun.